March, April-ish. Like, it was, like, dead center of, like, everybody thinks it's a zombie apocalypse. No one had gotten used to it yet, right?
But first I gotta know, baby, can you handle me? This is not another quick fix, Jay.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode of Offbeat presented by Vision Collective. If you don't know what this series is, it's basically going to be exclusive interviews with artists, producers, and just creatives in general. We don't really have a set time on when we're going to be doing this, so definitely go check out our Instagram so you never miss a series. To kick off this episode, we are starting with one of my absolute favorite artists right now, Sierra.
What's up, man?
How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. I'm chilling. What about you?
Chilling. You're back in PA. That's right.
Yeah, I'm in PA right now.
Yes, sir. So, I know that you're really big on doing everything in terms of behind the scenes. Writing, recording, mixing. When did you get into music, and how did you learn all these instruments?
Oh man, it's a long question.
Definitely.
So that goes way back. So I started playing guitar, taking lessons when I was around I think it was 6 or 7. And around that time, I was just playing kind of whatever my teacher gave me. It wasn't anything too musical, just kind of normal kid reading out of a book 1, book 2 type thing.
Right.
So later on, I got a little bit more into production and things like that when I was probably around 12, and this is just me banging away on a MIDI keyboard, not knowing too much. And then by the time I got to late middle school, early high school, started taking guitar more seriously, and with that came bass too, which I picked up around the time I started producing. And then once I got into high school, I really kind of put pen to the paper, trying to learn more music theory, trying to get my production skills down, actually making my mixes sound like they belong on the radio.
Right.
And towards the end of that, and really just more recently starting singing too. It's more of a new thing for me.
That's what I thought, because you were in a band before this, right?
Yeah, man, I was making metal music for most of my time. That's really where I learned music. People say they study jazz, they study classical. I really feel like the reason I learned music is I studied metal music, and I learned it the best I could, and that's how I kind of got my chops, and I'm kind of transferring it to pop as well as I can.
Right, and that's what I was gonna kind of lead into, is what was that transition from not only going from recording with a group of people and having other minds to kind of bounce off of versus now where you're not even making the same genre of music and you're also by yourself.
Yeah, so back then it was kind of just a veil of a band. What happened is I wrote the full EP on my own still.
Gotcha.
And I gave it to the rest of the band, and we started playing that way. So I've kind of always been more of an independent worker in that way. So it felt pretty at home for me, just because behind the scenes I was used to doing it by myself still. But it's definitely a little bit of a different vibe too. I'm excited for how the live shows are gonna play out too, because live shows with pop music are so focused on the vocalist and not as much the band, where I'm kind of used to having the band be the main part.
Exactly.
So it's definitely gonna be a little bit of a shift. But as far as making it goes, it's not too different for me.
Yeah, and did you start the kind of solo career after the COVID thing hit, or was it before? I can't remember when that
it
hit the timeline.
It was after. That's
what I thought.
It had to be March, April-ish. It was dead center of everybody thinks it's a zombie apocalypse. No one had gotten used to it yet, right?
Exactly. Right.
So at that time, I was still full on with the metal music, and I wrote this pop song because I was working on a bunch of them, because at that point I was just writing for other artists and kind of trying to make my tracks and have other people sing them and kind of be the producer behind the scenes making things work.
Right.
And I just kind of got tired of waiting for other artists, because everyone kind of has their own plan, and I didn't know many people that were full steam going ahead for music.
Right.
So I kind of just said screw it and did this one myself, and that was my first track that I put out, and it just kind of kept going from there. Because as a picky musician, as obvious that it sounds, I'm the easiest person for me to work with,
Right. 100%. Yeah, because that was one of my questions. Was I know you've done shows in the past with the band and everything like that, and I didn't know if you had anything planned for solo, or if you were, even during COVID. I know a lot of people have been doing like virtual shows on like Instagram. So I don't know if
Mhm.
you've been planning anything like that or trying to dabble into the virtual world of concerts.
Yeah. So I'm a concert head through and through. Like, I absolutely love them. I had so many tickets lined up before the whole COVID thing hit. So I've been kind of half and half about the whole like virtual concert thing, or kind of trying to do things halfway. So at least at the moment, my thought is that it's hopefully going to be done within a year or a little over a year. And I want to really take the time I need to do it right. Because I know that if I did something now, I'd be kind of half and half on it. And I wouldn't feel totally confident just because I know that's not what I would want it to be. I don't want my first concert to be people separated and wearing masks and things like that, or outside.
Right.
I want it to be the same concert experience that I love so much and that I keep spending my own money on. So at least right now, the plan is to just wait it out, and when I can, put on the best show I possibly can.
Exactly, because I know the whole virtual concert. I haven't even sat in on one before, I don't believe, but I know there's just a whole different vibe from performing in front of an actual audience. And even when I forget where it was in the world, but I know they were doing like shows, but people were in these little like tent kind of things, and they were separated like 6 feet or whatever. And I just feel like it's such a different vibe. People are so spaced out. You know, you can't have that same I guess effect on people.
Yeah, and people are doing it, so there's an audience for it. Just how like people want to sit back and watch podcasts, or people sit back and watch the Coachella live stream. There's totally an audience there. It's just a totally different experience. I feel like they're not really comparable, you know?
Definitely. And then, so going back to, obviously you said you got your start in metal music. Who were some of your biggest inspirations now, and do you still kind of look back and take inspiration from that metal time when you were making metal music?
For sure. So some of my biggest metal influences are bands like some of the newer dudes like Polyphia, Intervals, Chan, Jason Richardson, and they're all just absolute shredders. So those guys really taught me how to get my hands on the instrument, and I kind of learned to get things from my brain to my hands by playing that type of music.
Right.
But that music was never necessarily where I started completely musically. I'd say my foundation for music, as far as a listener goes, definitely starts at pop and R&B.
Yeah.
Like old, like early 2000s pop and R&B that my older sister used to show me. And then from there, I kind of transitioned into metal, and that's where I kind of tried to really become a student of it all.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of taking the lessons I learned and putting it back into that pop R&B sound that I originally fell in love with.
Right. And I think it's a super popular thing to do in the creative space. I don't remember who it was, but I remember reading there was a writer who would rewrite entire novels by, like, you know, popular writers, just so he knew what it felt like to write a bestseller. Like, so copying, or not even copying, just mimicking what people are doing that have mastered it, I think is huge.
For sure. And I still do that to this day. When I go and I make a new song and I'm trying to mix it, I still put it next to another mix. So I have my mix on this window, and I have like Charlie Puth or someone on this one. I'm playing back and forth through my monitors, and I see what's up.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to learn, because people have already done things well.
Exactly.
And if something's not broke, you don't really need to fix it. So
100%.
I'm still doing that to this day, man.
Yeah. And I know that Charlie Puth, obviously being a huge inspiration, and you're big on creating content outside of the music space, which is something that Charlie does as well. So where do you kind of see yourself taking it? Because I know you've dabbled with TikTok and stuff like that. Where do you see yourself going with creating content on, you know, platforms like YouTube, TikTok, other stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, it's always changing. I always have different goals, and I'm trying to do a billion different things at once. Like I feel like every musician is. But my biggest ones right now is, first thing I want to do after getting a base in music is I want to get onto YouTube and hopefully start making more videos there and show more of a lifestyle view of a musician.
Right.
Because that's not something I feel like people do much. There's still such a big disconnect between your favorite artist and you. Where, like, let's take someone like who's like mainstream. Let's take like Dua Lipa, right? Like, we all know who Dua Lipa is. We know what she looks like. We know her music. We have no clue what she does in her free time, right? We just see pictures of her on the internet, and that's like kind of the only way that she exists right now. So I want to kind of break down that barrier if I can a little bit, and really show more of the life of a musician on YouTube, if I can, rather than just kind of being behind a glass wall, you know?
Right. And
So
I've
that's
seen
kind of
it.
be my first step.
Exactly, and I've seen it get super popular. I mean, guys like I know Tory Lanez and Russ have done it where they go live in the studio and they make songs. They incorporate, like Tory Lanez would have his fans who were in the IG live choose the song name. Russ would have them pick out words that he would use in the song, stuff like that. And even outside of music, I know I just saw Gronk, who plays football, everything. He actually has a YouTube channel with his brothers and stuff like that. So I think creating content and creating that personal vibe is huge for gaining more attraction and eyes on your stuff.
For sure. And I think that's one of the reasons streaming is so big too, because it starts to make you feel like you're just kind of friends with the person rather than you're idolizing them, you know? Like, seeing that there's a real person behind there it definitely kind of elevates the whole experience of being a fan.
Right. And I think that's why the whole, influencer thing is kind of taking over, like, movie stars, whereas, maybe 10, 20 years ago, movie stars were top tier. Like, those were the people who everyone was watching, where now, these influencers and stuff are the people you're watching because you watch them all the time. You can go watch a Logic go live. You can go watch, these influencers go live, and it's more than just listening to their music, outside of where, like, a movie star, you just see them play a character, whereas, when they're live, it's their real life, it's who they are.
Yeah, for sure.
So I know that we've been going, back into your past a little bit. I know that you're super into video games. So what were some of the original games that made you fall in love with gaming, and has it kind of taken a toll on how you make music or what you incorporate into your songs?
Oh, that's a great question, man. It's a really good question. All right, so early on, right, my like love for gaming started with the PS2, right? I would play Ratchet and Clank and Star Wars Battlefront 2 like nonstop. So those are definitely two big landmarks. And then I got the 360. Black Ops 2 was probably the big one on there. And nowadays I'm just playing a lot of Tekken, man.
100%.
And,
exactly.
So as far as it relates to music, that's really interesting that you say that, though, because that's a big thing in the metal space that I see a lot. I see a lot of people taking influence from there, and even a lot of metal musicians being hired to like score video games and things like that.
Exactly.
Which is super cool. So it definitely had some influence on my music, especially when I was making that type of music. But even now, it kind of shaped the way that I make music and the sounds that I'm drawn towards. And that is something that I kind of can't shake no matter what genre I make. So there's definitely still some influence in there from even something as simple as like menu music when you boot up a game. Hearing something that sticks in your brain that much, that's so identifiable, it definitely has some influence.
Yeah, and I think it's, seen across all of, music genres. I know it's especially prominent in rap, R&B. I know guys like Bryson Tiller uses, Mortal Kombat sounds in his music all the time. Uzi, I saw he sampled, like, the menu music for, like, Monkey Ball or something like that. It's so cool. It adds to that, like, personal level. And, you just feel like you can relate to them a little bit more.
Yeah, and I feel like it's that thing again of kind of turning, breaking down that glass wall and turning it a little bit more into a lifestyle, things people can relate to.
Exactly. Right. So, kind of going back to what we were talking about, creating content and everything. Outside of music, I know that you have a very entrepreneur-esque mindset. Have you always had that and, that drive to create your own path?
I want to say yes. So as far as things geared towards business, that's a little more recent, but I've always kind of had a very a brain that lacked moderation.
Right.
So growing up, I just remember I had a billion different hobbies that I would find, and I would move on to the next one. Whenever I would find a new hobby, it would just take up my entire day.
Yeah.
And it'd be like the most random stuff. Like at one point, I learned to solve a Rubik's Cube, so I spent the next year spending all day just solving Rubik's Cubes and finding different ones.
Right.
So that kind of determined mindset has definitely stuck with me. And now, of course, being an adult, having to put things like that into application, that's definitely coming to light a little bit. And I look at it the same way. I always just want to put like all my effort into things. I want to do things 100%. I don't want to do anything halfway.
Yeah.
And I want that stuff to look good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of passion that gets put into this stuff. I think it was last week. I know Elon Musk did an interview, and someone asked him, like, why is there not more Elon Musks in the world? And he says that it all goes back to like he feels inside that if he doesn't do this thing, he feels like he's gonna just die. Like it's just that do or die kind of thing where like you have to get it done and you want to put all your time into it.
Yeah, like there's no question about it. Like when I wake up, it's never what am I gonna do today. I'm gonna go work on this.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
So I know you don't have that many songs out right now, but what is your favorite song that you've ever made?
Oh man, so every time I make a new song, the same exact thing happens, right? The process of being an artist, right? You make something, you look at it, and you're like, oh, it's cool. You put it out, and then you hate it.
Right.
So at any given time, usually so far at least, my favorite song is always the most recent one.
Yep.
So the one I'm about to release coming up soon is definitely my favorite, Handle Me.
Yeah. And I know for that you did a music video and you put a ton of time and effort into, making it kind of a story rather than what you see nowadays, which is just people walking around lip syncing lyrics. Why do you think it's kind of beneficial and important for an artist to put more time into their visuals?
I think one of the biggest things, as simple as it sounds, is just not boring people, man.
Right.
Because the further we get into this like social media age and the internet age, people have less and less patience for things. Yeah. And music videos are kind of going the opposite way, where they're having less and less effort put into them and less effort really being seen on screen.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be important soon to start doing something different, whether that's like doing cool stuff with CG or like doing some cool like mocap VTubers thing that I've seen people do, or just anything weird to make people keep watching. Because I think that eventually people are going to get tired of seeing people just sing their song in a few different places then cut between the takes.
Exactly.
And that's something I wanted to kind of bring back, because it used to get done a lot more in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
I used to see that all the time, where there'd be an actual storyline to both the song and the video.
Yeah.
And it kind of faded. So I want to bring it back a little bit if I can, because I mean, even myself being a consumer of these things, I get bored,
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to put out something that's going to hold my attention if I wanted to expect it to hold other people's attentions,
That's what I'm saying. I used to, like, on MTV, everything, you'd see these, like, crazy, whether it was, like, the Gorillas, whether it was, like all these, like, these music videos had so much context behind them, and it was, I think it's dying off. I think that's why people like, Lyrical Lemonade, Cole Bennett, their whole team is going, because I think you're right, the music video scene is going the opposite way, and they're putting less effort into it, and I think they're going down the path that it's always been, which is why I think they're flourishing. So I think just telling a story and keeping people engaged, especially in the day and age of like TikTok, where people are scrolling every 5 seconds, keeping someone entertained for 3 minutes nowadays is like hitting the lottery.
Yeah, and Gorillaz is the perfect example of that too.
Yeah.
Because they've created this whole like fandom around these characters, and every music video is developing the story a little bit. And really, there's not even a band.
That's what I'm saying.
And they've done it perfectly. That's the perfect example of like holding somebody's attention and like putting value behind your video. And you see how long it's lasted. And they're still going now.
Yeah, I didn't even know they actually perform like behind a screen, and they have like holograms and like screens like that. Like the characters perform, like they have like animations.
Yeah, it's
nuts. I had no idea it was like that deep.
And they're kind of bringing that to their live performances too.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
It's insane.
It's so cool, like trying to transfer that over. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's insane. So I know as of now you don't have any features on any songs. I know that working with a band, you've been kind of used to working with other people. I know you've written them all yourself, but having that collaborative kind of aspect to your songs, can fans expect you to have more songs with like features and collaborations upcoming?
I'm not 100% sure. Right now I love making music on my own, but sometimes I'll get into a song and I'll be kind of stuck, and I'll think like I wish I had this person to fill it in, like somebody that I listen to.
Right.
So I think that feature wise, maybe a little further down the line, I could get some people that I like really love. Because some people, just everything they touch is gold. It'd have to be someone like that if I did. Because I love working on my own, and I like not listening to anyone and making all my own decisions.
Exactly.
But there are a few people where if I got the chance to get them, I would have to. Like, there's no way I'm saying no,
Right. Yeah, I feel you. Well, that's just about all the questions I had. I have one more, and I can't remember if I know the answer to this or not. But where did you get the name Sierra? Where'd that kind of come from?
Oh my gosh. So Sierra was the name of my band.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's what it was originally. Yeah. So that came from my band, and it just transferred over. I just kept using the same Spotify page.
Yep.
And I put my face on it, and after I put on my first track, I was like, okay, I guess I'm scared now.
I guess I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, it's just gonna keep going. So it's back from. I decided on that name when I was like, I had to be like 15 or 16 when I started
awesome.
making metal music, and it just stuck with me.
Definitely, it's fire. It's super clean. I love it.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's just about all the questions I had. Thank you so much for taking time out to do the podcast.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, bro.
This is awesome. I love this format too.
100%. Any things you want to plug? Video coming up soon.
Oh man. Follow the gram. Keep an eye out for new tracks, and hopefully soon follow the YouTube too.
Awesome. All right, man. I appreciate you.
Of course, man. I'll talk to you soon, bro. You
Have
too.
a good one, bro. Peace.